let me start with explaining the title. The title is not that myth is new in Castilla, but the apotheosis of myth, which means myth became more and more important than ever. That I would like to discuss with you. I've noted that Castilian Kabbalah invented myth. They didn't invent too much, maybe here and there, but not too much. But what is very important, that is an acceleration and intensification of the mythical elements which were found in Judaism and also in Kabbalah before. And this intensification is, in my opinion, very obvious, and that separates, distinguishes Castilian Kabbalah from other forms of Kabbalah, but also from Rabbinic Judaism in general. So, let me start with a small introduction to clarify the idea of apotheosis. Once, scholars of the Bible believe that the Hebrew Bible is not mythological at all, it's anti-mythological. Even serious scholars like Sholem, for example, say no, there's no myth in the Bible, no myth in rabbinic literature. And Sholem had very good sources, like the most important scholar, maybe in Jewish studies in Jerusalem, Kaufman, who wrote 4 volumes to demonstrate that Judaism in the Bible has no mythology. That's a very, very good book, very nice to read it, but today no one would accept something like that. So there are myths in the Bible, small myths, bigger myths. That is a matter which can be discussed, how much, what is their importance. But no one would say that in the Bible there are no myths. That is also the case with rabbinic literature. People will say, no, rabbinic literature is either casuistic, what Christians will say, or it rejected mythology, as scholars of pseudepigrapha would say today. I can give you a list of scholars who would say, no, that's, how to put it, rabbinic Judaism is not mythological. Mythology is found in apocalyptic literature, in apocryphal literature, in pseudepigraphical literature, but rabbinic literature rejected it. Today, people will also laugh. There are new scholarship showing that there are myths in rabbinic literature, which are not terribly important, but they are there. And their presence there created certain form of opening towards mythology that Kabbalists capitalized on it. Which means there is a greater continuity between some elements in the Bible and some elements in the rabbinic literature and Kabbalah. And those elements are mythological. For sure, Kabbalists had access to the Bible and also to rabbinic literature. In my opinion, they had access to additional material that I shall discuss not today, where mythology was found and they developed, elaborated, entered in detail, and we shall see today. So that is the meaning of apotheosis. Not something which is totally new, but something which is much more important, to which lengthy books are dedicated, which changes the status of myth in Kabbalah in comparison to Rabbanism and in comparison to the Bible. Not because there is no mythology, but their mythology had another role. It was fragmented, it was downplayed. In Kabbalah, we have an explosion of mythology, especially in Castilian Kabbalah. That's why I'm speaking about Castilian Kabbalah. I cannot say the same on Kabbalah in Provence or Kabbalah in Castilla, in Catalonia, where there are mythological elements, but they are not so powerful and not so important for understanding those forms of Kabbalah. That is the meaning of apotheosis. Now, I cannot enter in all the mythological discussions in Castilian Kabbalah. I shall speak also in the next lectures about some issues, but I would like to describe and then read texts about a very important myth, maybe the most important myth in Judaism, in my opinion, which was developed in Castilian Kabbalah, despite the fact there are some sources. So, if I would be pushed to say what is the most important myth in the Bible, so my assumption is the most important myth in the Bible is the spatial status of the people of Israel. Meaning the chosen people, God is taking care of them, from time to time He's angry on them, but that's a spatial relationship, which is much more mythological in my opinion than to speak about creation and Leviathan and all those small myths. It's a big myth which actually affected the self-understanding of the Jews in the Bible and later. So, how would, in my opinion, a biblical Jew look to God? Not as monotheism, as we assume. That is a later misunderstanding. A normal biblical Jew would say, God is our God, who selected us, and He takes care of us, and we must worship Him, which can be called monolatry, not monotheism. Meaning that is a very strong mythological relationship, which is like a shepherd and the sheep. We are the sheep of the shepherd is taking care of us, and we have someone who is leading us. Which doesn't mean there are not other gods, but that's not our gods. And they don't care about us, and we don't care about them. That is, in my opinion, the most important mythological element in the Bible, which is still very powerful in many circles today. Then if someone is going to ask me, so what's the most important myth in rabbinic literature? Rabbi would say, for sure, what is in the Bible is true. But there is something even more important. And that's another myth. That's the myth of the Torah. In the Bible, there is no myth of the Torah. But in rabbinic literature, the Torah is a fact, already canonized, studied all the time, conceived to be the most important element in religious life, even more important than God. That is written in Talmudic literature. It's not my invention. Meaning the mythology of the Torah means that for sure we are elected people. But we are elected for what? We are elected to study the Torah. The Torah is supplying us everything. Someone studying the Torah has the most important part of life. There's nothing more important. That, in my opinion, is a mythology, dealing with relationship between God and man, or man and God, with rituals. To study the Torah is a ritual. So that a second mythology, which is not displacing the earlier mythology, but adding to the earlier mythology. Later on, despite the fact the sources are earlier, but later on there is a third myth, very important and still important, which is the myth of the Messiah. The Messiah will come, okay, we study the Torah, that's fine, but what's going to happen in history. So the idea is the Messiah, he will come, he will save us, we shall return in one way or another to the land of Israel, everything is going to be renewed as it was in the past. That's mythological or eschatological mythology, which is also very important, not so much for the rabbis, which had their myths, but for other aspects in Judaism, and became more and more important with the time. Those are three mythologies which are not especially Kabbalistic. They are found in books written long before Kabbalah. The Kabbalists actually capitalized on those myths. And that's what I like to show you today, how the myth of relationship between the Jew and God, and the Jew and the Torah, which means Jew, God, Torah, and the way of life of a Jew, is the big myth, bigger than the earlier myths. More detailed, more explicit, that was very important. And that is especially evident in Castilian Kabbalah. Why it's especially evident, I don't believe that has to do something with Castile. But in the literature written here, that seems to me to be very, very clear. So why it's here, my explanation is basically explanation of statistics, which means Castilian Kabbalah is much bigger in quantity than whatever was written in Kabbalah before by many times. I don't know how many times. 10 times more than everything that was written earlier. That is a very clear statistic issue. We put together everything written by the Kabbalists up to 1260. Everything will be maximum 2 volumes. 2 volumes, that's what one single Kabbalist, like Castile, or Joseph of Hamadan, or Moshe de Leon, speak about the book of the Zohar. That's by far much longer. Which means that elements which are found earlier, now there's a space to explain to them. So we see the, how to put it, the myth which is found earlier, but is here much more explicit, explicated. And that is the reason why we're going to read about those issues, despite the fact I can make a selection from Catalan Kabbalah, but it's going to be not very interesting. A phrase here, a phrase there. Here we have, I brought text, but books. So, what happens in Castile? We can see the emergence, and that's very important, of a literary genre named commentaries on the rationale of the commandments, which means commandments are found in the Bible. Rabbinical literature is full of discussions of commandments. However, what is not found in the Bible or in rabbinic literature is what is the rationale of doing something like that. Biblical literature is apodictic. God said it and that's all. You don't ask questions. Rabbinic literature, writing a lot about commandments, explain to you how to do them. Details, which are not found in the Bible. The Bible is a very, very brief type of discourse. No one can perform commandments according to the Bible, because you don't have details. If someone is saying, you must don phylacteries. What is phylacteries? What is to don? That's not found in the Bible. It's totally impossible for a Jew reading only the Bible to understand what is the commandment. So that's why rabbinic literature elaborated on how to do it by writing huge articles, huge treatises on it. But those treatises deal with one single issue. This issue is how to do. Or to make it a little bit simplistic. The Bible is dealing with what to do. Those are the commandments. But we don't know how to do. So came the rabbis and wrote huge treatises about how to do. But they didn't write why to do. They didn't say that the will of God. That's what someone would say, it's the will of God. Don't ask questions about something like that. And indeed, the huge rabbinic literature doesn't offer rationals. Why do something like that in such a way and not in another way? What happened in the Middle Ages, the question of why becomes very, very important, not only for Kabbalists, also for Jewish philosophers, despite the fact that Kabbalists were much more interested in it than the philosophers. And that's why a genre was created. This genre is called rationals for the commandments. They don't explain how to do. How to do is already clear from rabbinic literature. Those commentaries, which are from time to time long, deal only with the rationale for doing it. Now, the Kabbalists invented this genre. That's not found in the Bible, not found in Jewish philosophy, found only in Kabbalistic literature. It is found in Geronist Kabbalah a little bit. But what happened in Castilian Kabbalah? That was multiplied by 50, let's say. If we speak about what happened in Catalonia, we have a treatise dealing with commandments. Let's say 30 pages, 40 pages. In Castile, we have 5 books dedicated only to this issue, each of them 200 to 300 pages, which is dealing with those rationals. So up to this moment, I hope I'm clear. I'm a little bit simplistic, but I don't have enough time to qualify what I'm saying. Now, for me, that is the contribution of Kabbalah. Not to tell you that God has 10 divine powers and all this stuff, for sure is found in Kabbalah, and I'm going to discuss in a moment. But that is not the center of Kabbalah, as you can see everywhere. The 10 Sefirot, that's Kabbalah. That's only a structure to explain the meaning of the commandments. For this reason, it can be shown there's more than one scheme. Kabbalists could have more than one scheme. I should show you in a moment. Because the scheme is less important than what to do when knowing the scheme. But you can change the scheme and offer another explanation. And this other explanation is also very important. There is nothing like one explanation. That's why people wrote different commentaries on the same topic in the same period, maybe in the same city, because they had something new to contribute. So they wrote another 400 or 500 pages book, because that was the major issue. Not theology, but a certain ritual that needs a myth to explain the ritual. Now, the assumption in scholarship of Kabbalah and of popular Kabbalah is that if you know the 10 Sfirot, you know Kabbalah. That is childish. You can know this scheme in 5 minutes. So what? Knowing the structure is not an insight or something very profound if it is not connected to what you do, to how you pray, how you perform the commandments. And the importance of the new vision of deity that I'm going to describe in a moment should be understood as offering a framework for understanding the commandments. Is it clear? It's not a simple issue, or to put it in another way. To understand Kabbalah, you must understand that it's part of a certain way of life. This way of life, for Jews who were not Kabbalists, was to perform the commandments. You don't have to be a Kabbalist for it. However, if you are an elite figure, you ask yourself, why do something like that? Most of the people don't ask such a question. They do because of inertia, of mimesis, social issues, I don't know, psychological issues. My grandfather did it. It doesn't matter why people are still performing the commandments without Kabbalah, up to today. What is characteristic of Kabbalah is an attempt to offer a meaning that can be explained to also not only to the Kabbalists who's writing, but also to other people. Why it is so important. So that's why the rationale, so the reasons for the commandments is so important. If you understood up to this moment, you know Kabbalah. Now, what I attempt to do is to a little bit marginalize the importance of the theology. Because theology alone doesn't explain you why you do what you do. So for most of the Jews who don't need theology, we are doing the ritual. But for elite figures, people are concerned with the meaning. And they offered new meanings by using a certain theology. So now I shall attempt to explain you this theology. I don't ignore it. But it should be seen as part of a bigger project, not only offering you a new scheme of deity, and then, okay, you see it and you know, so as if that is the most important thing. Unlike Jewish philosophers who adopted philosophical visions basically stemming from Greece, that the Jews took monotheism from Greeks. No monotheism, as I put it earlier. God in the Bible is the God of the Jews. That's the only God who cares about us. We are taking, how to put it, we profited from his intervention history, exodus from Egypt, etc. That's our God. Jewish philosophers adopted another vision of deity, and that is the Greek one. Monotheism, which is meaning just one God, a principle very, very abstract, perfect. In a way or another, maybe cosmic intellect. And that was for Jewish philosophers, the theology. The problem for the Jewish philosophers, why did such a God, static, sublime, needs our worship? That's an issue Jewish philosophers had a problem to explain. So their explanation for why the commandments are important of the Jewish philosophers is to say, basically, and again, that's a simplification what I'm saying here, The commandments are a way of life which prepares you to an intellectual life. Meaning that's some form of education, self-education, that is a preparation for knowing God, which is basically a Greek approach. Then the question is, why should I do in the morning something, in the afternoon something else? It cannot be explained by the philosophers. You can have more than one way to prepare yourself. And maybe there are people who don't need this preparation. So what do you do then with the commandments? Why are the specific aspects of the commandment important if the whole story is just a preparation? And what happens to someone who is prepared? So what, he is exempted of performing commandments? So that was a major issue with the emergence of Jewish philosophy in 10th, 11th, 12th century. Meaning a small elite group adopted Greek philosophy. They were good Jews, they were not heretics. But their explanation was not accepted by the vast majority of the rabbis. I don't speak about popular Jews. Popular Jews didn't read philosophy. I think about rabbis who could read philosophy. And they understood this philosophy is counterproductive to a certain way of life we should live in any case. So a sublime divinity created a tension with the details of the ritual. Kabbalah is answering this question. How a theology allows you to find profound meaning, I don't say that it's profound, but for the Kabbalists, a profound meaning for what I do. To summarize this answer is, God is in need of man. That is the title of a book, you know, Abraham Abulafia. He wrote the book, not deeply influenced by Kabbalah, but has this insight. God needs us. That's not a matter of my intellectual development. It's a matter of an inner divine need. And God needs those detailed actions, and that's why we are responsible to do them. Is there any question up to this moment? Now, what the Kabbalists have done, they created a structure of divinity which is complex and dynamic. What is interesting in the structure of the 10 Sefirot, in a moment I shall qualify a lot of them saying here, but simplistically, divinity is not one perfect unit that doesn't need us, just static, like Aristotle's God or Plato's God. The divinity is not a personality, as in the Bible, but a system. But this system is dynamic and not static, and compounded of many powers. For example, at the beginning, 10, but that changed with time, it became more and more and more. So, the structure of Kabbalistic theology answers to the question, why what I do can contribute something to a system which is outside me. Because this system is dynamic. It can change in one way or another in accordance to what I am doing. Now, given the fact there are so many Jewish commandments, 613, which is only the beginning. The question is how one God needs all those commandments. But if you have 10 divine powers, and each of the divine powers has inner structures, then you can attach one of the commandments to one aspect. To say, that's needed for this aspect or that aspect, or the relationship between two divine powers. So you can offer rationals for hundreds of commandments. So that is the major contribution, in my opinion, of Kabbalah. The creation of a theology, which is not in itself sufficient. It is important only in order to offer a meaning to what you do. And that's why Kabbalistic theology was accepted by so many Orthodox Jewish circles up to today. Because the question can be, look, what's going on? That is polytheism. A lot of divine powers. What are those divine powers doing? We didn't see in the Bible, not in the Talmud, something like that. When someone understands that those divine powers are not independent, but they are in relationship with us, there is a good explanation why such a theology may be relevant. You understood it now? So now let me describe what I said in more abstract way. The Kabbalistic theology, from this moment on, I should speak about theosophy, which means a complex type of theology. If the philosophers had a theology, we can describe Kabbalistic system of many powers by the term theosophy. This theosophy is connected to the commandment by the concept which is not found in Kabbalah, which I apply to Kabbalah, which is called theurgy. Theurgy, which is a Greek term found in Neoplatonism, found in a variety of sources, which there is another meaning. I'm using it, I define it again. Theurgy means in Neoplatonism how someone arrives to God. Only rarely how someone affects God, rarely. I'm using this rare definition. How someone is affecting God. Theos is God, and ergon is some form of action. So my assumption is that what the Kabbalists have created is a complex system in which theosophy is conjugated with theology. When someone performs the commandments, he believes that affects God. It affects the theosophy. Now I shall try to give you examples, but the examples are infinite. There's a whole literature written then in Castile and later on up to today in this direction, which connects specific aspects in divinity with specific actions of the Jews, of the action of the Jews. So that seems to me to be the most important contribution of Kabbalah to Jewish thought in general. However, in order to show it, it's not enough to say, because it doesn't mean too much. You must demonstrate how a certain specific commandment has a certain specific effect. Because if not, this is just a principle. And if you don't know, so you didn't do anything. You must know what you do in order to be able to affect. Now, here I should like to introduce a term which is found before Kabbalah, but it was adopted in Kabbalah and became very important. In Hebrew, it's called kavanah, which meaning someone has a certain intention in mind when he's doing, not just doing it and believing it's going to affect. It's also found here in Kabbalah, but it's rare. The effect depends on my concentration while performing the commandment on a certain aspect of the divinity. Which means that it's not a mechanistic system. That I do here, and in a occult way, has an impact there. So I don't have to know how, because that is inbuilt there. For the Kabbalist, you must understand what you're doing, and now see how the effect is taking place on high, in order to be efficient. If not, maybe it's just a ritual which is inertial. So here there is a spiritual dimension of doing something, but having in mind a certain effect related to the divinity. So those three terms, theosophy, theurgy, and Kavanah, which are mediating between the two, creates complex systems which change all the time, because in the moment theosophy changes on high, and that changes a lot via the history of Kabbalah, including in Castilian Kabbalah. You must reinterpret the commandments again if the theosophy changed. So that's why we have more than one commentary. There's nothing like an accepted theosophy. Everyone accepts it. And the moment you have it and you have the explanation, that's enough. Given the fact that the Jews the Kabbalists didn't agree on theosophy, but each of them had something else in mind. They had also to translate their theosophy into an interpretation of the commandments, or into the interpretation of the prayer. So that's why there's a multiplication of treatises, because every theology wanted to prove its relevance by offering a precise explanation of the commandments. And that's the reason why we have more than one. Meaning, only in Castile we have 5 to 6. The matter, some of them we don't know where they were written. In my opinion, they are Castilian. So that is, in my opinion, the apotheosis of the myth. The myth of a Kabbalist able to influence divinity, if you like, you can say manipulate the divinity by his ritual life. And the most important element in this effect of the divinity is to unify the divine powers. So, what is called monotheism is for the Kabbalists something meaningless. God is one because we unify him, or her, however you like. It's not a given data like in Aristotle or Maimonides. God is one in any case. It doesn't matter what you are doing, he's not affected. The idea now is that God is unified by us by bringing all those powers together. And if we don't do it, we affect him negatively. So that, in my opinion, that's one of the biggest myths possible. A very strong relationship related to the ritual, related to an awareness of the importance of what we do, not only for us, but also for God. So, for us, for sure, it's important, because the system which is giving us the energy, the power here, power is coming from there. The system doesn't work. We are badly affected by it. I mean, we must keep the system in the best way, not only for the sake of God, but also for the sake of us. Because if the system doesn't work, we're going to be affected also, not only that. So on one side, there is the theurgical operation. You unify that. But on the other side, there's an aspect, a more practical aspect, that without this unification of the system, we're going to have a bad life. Not only as person, but also for the universe. So here is, in my opinion, the contribution of Kabbalah. The responsibility via ritual life for God, but also for us, or for the universe. That depends what Kabbalism, say different accents. It's not one simple thing. Okay? So if I'm clear up to this moment, we can read now. It's very easy to tell you those stories. The problem is to find expressions of such a view found in the text, because they are writing as if people know the system. They give me the details, a lot of details. What I attempted to do to extrapolate the concepts, to give you a picture which in itself is not written in the text. No one is saying, what is it, theurgy, theosophy, those terms are not found in Kabbalah. No one is saying, look, we are responsible. I mean, that is, in a way, implicit in what is written here, and I shall try by reading some of the texts to show you what those texts are telling us by referring to those abstract terms, theosophy, theurgy, Kabbalah. However, before, in order to, I don't want to enter too much in this issue, but if you see here systems of Sphirot, 10 Sphirot, true? Have a look to them. You have never seen them. Doesn't matter what book, about popular book about Kabbalah you'll open, none of them is found there. They are different. They are found on the same page, which means the Kabbalists didn't care about too much to have one structure or another structure. They are similar, that's enough. What is the classical structure that I don't want to enter too much in it? You can see it everywhere, on the internet, wherever. As if there is one structure. There was never one structure. That is not actually, I didn't choose it. I would say the same thing, but I can show it to you. On the same page, a Kabbalist is drawing two different, and if you're going to read this manuscript later, you will find more, and that's no problem. Which means the problem was not so much to know exactly a system, but to know there are different powers, they are related to each other, and if someone has one view or another, that's his problem. I have another view, he has another thing. That can be learned from this, that there are hundreds of diagrams which differ. Hundreds. Why do they differ? Not because they didn't copy exactly, because they have slightly different views. However, in addition to this vertical structure, that's vertical, starting here and going down, there are Kabbalists who had a totally different vision. For example, Abraham Abulafia didn't care about this at all. At all. But there were other Kabbalists who were belonging to this school of theosophical theological Kabbalah, and nevertheless they didn't accept this view. They had another view. You can write somewhere. Something very simple. I brought with me. It's here. Okay, it's fine. Here or here? No.
There is last it's
here. Look, very simple. Again, found, in my opinion, at least 50 texts, different, not texts, diagrams, in which the Sefirot are written Keter, Ma, Bina, the end is Malchut. It's a circular philosophy, which is very different from the point of view of the logic from the vertical one. For example, not slightly different views, which are found for sure, and I cannot enter them into details, but I'm speaking about a vision which is circular, which is not vertical, and has other logic which I cannot enter here at all. A logic which is interesting, in my opinion, for the feminist public view. Because here, you see, the last divine power, Malchut, is feminine. You can say, look, that is a chauvinistic vision. The feminine is the lowest. However, if you take something like that, the female is very, very high. Highest. So that's an example how different the logics of the system of ten Sefirot can be. Can be dramatically different, and I cannot enter too much in this issue. But it's important to remember that unlike the normal Kabbalists who are telling you what Kabbalah is, I cannot tell you what Kabbalistic philosophy is, because that's a nebula of many, many systems that you must understand each of them with their logic and to see how they are applied in Kabbalistic writings. So the problem is, if you don't know all this, you believe that to understand the text is to know this by heart. And then this logic is going to be applied and sufficient for all Kabbalistic texts, even if there is no diagram. So that is at least childish. It's quite obvious that the Kabbalists, everyone has something different in mind, and to understand, really to understand him, you must guess what is his picture of philosophy before you apply it. Okay? So that's how to put it, an introduction. To understand that Kabbalah is very, very complex, and what people are selling you, doesn't matter where, it's like McDonald's, Kabbalah, it's not a McDonald's. For people who cannot do too much intellectual exercise, they are told about, there are 10 Sefirot, and that you know, you understand. Here you don't understand anything. Okay. So now we shall enter reading three texts. The three texts are Castilian, written in Castile. Despite the fact written from Ramadan, this guy, doesn't matter from where he came, from Persia or not, he wrote in Castile. That is accepted by all the scholars for the time. Like many others, he wrote a lengthy commentary on the rationale of the commandment. It's so long that the scholar who wrote the PhD in Brandeis could publish only half of it. Only very recently, 2 months ago, the second part of it was published in another PhD. We are speaking about a huge book, which is, that is the longest, but there are also several others that I'm going to mention. So I selected and translated some parts of this huge commentary, which is only recently, how to put it, printed and translated at all. So, I would like to illustrate what I said earlier by reading the text. So, happy is he and blessed his Lord who knows how to direct a limb which corresponds to a limb. A limb corresponding to a limb is a human limb corresponding to a divine limb. That's very, very important. Commandments are related not to what you think, but to what you do. What you do by limbs. The knowledge The real knowledge, say that God is one and all this stuff. The real knowledge is that there's a system there, anthropomorphic, meaning 10 spheroids are in his system. It's a divine anthropos, having limbs, corresponding to our limbs, and what we do affects, but it affects only if you know what human limb corresponds to a divine limb. That is theology. Because if you don't know, you just do things which are meaningless from Kabbalistic point of view. The term used to direct is Kabbalah. How do you direct what you do by one limb to a divine power, which is described very clearly in anthropomorphic terms, without any fear. The Kabbalists were not afraid of the philosophers, or their vision was anthropomorphic, from time to time sharply anthropomorphic. And the clue is to know the correspondence. That is, not to know that there are 10 spheroids, and not to know only that there are rituals. If they are separated, they are meaningless. So what is the happiness? The happiness is someone who knows. That's why it started. Happy is someone who has the clue for what he's doing, which corresponds to the divine. And the form, which corresponds to a form in the holy and pure chain. Again, a form of a limb has also forms there. It's very important, because otherwise you can say, maybe there are no forms there. No, that's anthropomorphic form having limbs, and you must know the form and the limb. Because, at least in my case, the hands are similar, but for a Kabbalist that's not enough. You must know what's corresponding, not only to a hand, according to his view, also each part of the fingers correspond to something. So that is the term happy is symbolizing what is the clue of the Kabbalistic discourse. Not in theology and not in the ritual, but in the concatenation between ritual and theology. In the holy and pure chain. So that's this Kabbalist, like some others, but not too many, describes the divine as a concatenation of divine powers, holy chain. That's in Hebrew, that's shalshelet. That's very precise shalshelet. Shalshelet at the Torah, the pure. What is the meaning of this term? For sure, that is also some form of concatenation. But what's more important here, by the use of, you could say, there's a divine anthropos. It's no problem for him to say divine anthropos, he's saying a lot. But I choose this part in order to make a point. If the divine is a chain, that's a reminiscent, something in your mind that you know from Western culture. The term chain. There's a famous book written about Western culture which has the term chain there. No one read this book. It's a very important book for knowing medieval and later up to 18th century Western philosophy. Named The Great Chain of Being by a Harvard philosopher named Lovejoy, Arthur Lovejoy. He wrote a whole book about the image of a chain which unifies God with this world. Everything is a chain. And that she wrote maybe the most important book in the history of ideas. That is a part of the history of ideas. Starting from Plato up to late 18th century. What is fascinating in Lovejoy's book, he shows how Plato had an impact on Western culture. The chain is a concatenation, but it is a stable, static issue. Meaning this chain, despite the fact it's called a chain, cannot be moved. It is there. That's, how to put it, a static mechanism. There's no way someone to affect it. That is the cosmos. So the Kabbalist is taking exactly this image and saying, what do you mean a chain? It's a chain, I can move it. There's no meaning for a chain that is not flexible. So what we find in his case, but also many other Kabbalists, especially in Castile, very rare in Catalonia, very, very rare in Catalonia, but widespread in Castilla, to say, look, let's take this image and make sense of it. It doesn't have a sense in the Western thinking. Because you say there's a chain, but a chain which is not flexible. There's nothing like that. So they took it and they created a theology based on the idea, if there's a chain, I am here, can move the chain. You understand it, but you know, I will recommend the book of Lovejoy, for sure it's translated, I'm sure, translated in Spanish. That is a classic. Now this Lovejoy did an incredible job by describing the whole story of the chain in the West. With the exception of Kabbalah. He didn't know that there are hundreds of discussions written in the West, in which the chain is flexible. It's not just, how to put it, an image for the stable cosmos. Or, according to other scholars, the question is, other scholars who wrote after him, important books. I would like not to enter now in debates. This chain has also another meaning. It gives us what we are, meaning a sense of our dignity, below and high, etc. The Kabbalists didn't care about something like that. They cared only about the dynamic. If you are serious about the chain should be flexible, and we are moving the chain, not God. God is the chain, and we are moving it. Now, how do we do it? And now enters the mythological issue that I discussed earlier. Since the Torah is his form, the Torah is found here. The Torah is isomorphic to God. Isomorphic to us. How is it isomorphic? I shall explain in a moment. So we have actually the way in which to move the chain. It's very nice to say we move the chain, but what do you mean, how do we move the chain? But if the assumption is that the divinity is an anthropos, and we are also an anthropos, but in the Torah there are all the commandments, which means the divinity has limbs that are related to commandments, and we have limbs that are related to commandments. We know the commandments from the Torah. So the Torah is mediating between us and between the divinity, because there are all the commandments. So here the idea is, how do you know how to direct? It's very nice to say if you know, but from what do you know? So, how to direct is studied from the commandment from the Torah, and here the idea is that the Torah is in one way or another isomorphic to our body, to the divine body. Is it clear? Mm-hmm. You understand too well. Okay. So you see what can be said in 2 lines. A certain vision of divinity, certain vision of the Torah, certain vision of the performance of the commandments as related to affecting by correspondence as a form of sympathy between our body and the divine body via the Torah where the commandments are described. Yes.
By chain.
By?
By chain. Chain.
Chain. Yes.
You understand Shalshelet Kabbalah?
I don't know.
The chain, the word chain.
Yes.
You understand the same thing that Shalshelet Kabbalah? It's not the same.
No. That's a good question, but it's not related.
Okay.
Meaning, the term chain is found in Hebrew also to describe the mode of transmission of knowledge, that was the question, from ancient time up to today. The term is in Hebrew the chain of tradition, Shalshelet Kabbalah. That is another use of the term chain, but unrelated to it. My claim here was the term chain is taken over in a polemical way from the Platonic vision found in the West. The term Shalshelet Kabbalah is found, has to do with a certain form of historiography. How do we know what we know? Because there's a concatenation of people who transmitted something from one period to another. But that's the same term, you are right, but I cannot enter in all those. Chain is a long story. Okay. So, we were ordered to study the Torah. How do you know how to do it? You study the Torah. So, there you will find what you do. But in a way, you know that what you do is by a limb. And by studying Kabbalah, you know the corresponding limb. And then you know what you need in order to perform the theological operation. So, in order to know that archetype of a supernal form, meaning every limb has an archetype there. Okay. Here, listen a little bit to the Platonic vision. Meaning, yes, there is something there, some form of structure of ideas, but they are not static. And that's what we shall see now. So, as some Kabbalists had said, cursed be he who doesn't hold up all the words of the Torah. Meaning, why it's so important to respect the commandments? Because if you don't do it, you don't affect the structure on high. So you are cursed. Here, the meaning is a little bit more complex, because that is the custom. After the ritual reading of the Torah, in the week, or on Shabbat, or holidays, someone must show the Torah to the congregation. And they will see that what you read is found there. Now, according to this Kabbalist, which I cannot enter into many details, at least writing a lot about it, in a cult way, when you look to the structure of the page of the Torah, you must see an anthropos. So you show, what you show is not what we assume the text. The text is, there is a text there, but you must imagine that this text is an anthropos, that you show to the people. That the Torah is similar to God and similar to us. That is the meaning to hold it to the congregation. So that they will see the image of the subcarnal form. Moreover, the person who studies the Torah, that he sees the supernal secrets and he sees the glory of God literally. Meaning, the assumption is that someone can see with his eyes by looking to the Torah like a mirror of the divine form. Okay, any question about it? You see, that's very simple. But you see that someone doesn't have to tell you what's Sphira and all this stuff. That is known by people who wrote something like that, but they were interested much more in the application and not to tell you that these commandments related to this Sphira. But what is important here is to emphasize the importance of the performance. Okay. Another text from the same book. Woe to whoever believes there is nothing more than the plain sense of the Torah. Because the Torah is the name of the Holy One, blessed be He, in its entirety. So the assumption is that the Torah is not only in the form of God, but also is the name of God. And that's an issue which, again, I cannot enter here, which I call it some form of the nomos. The Torah is nomos, is also the name and also the form at the same time. Like a person. We have structure, but we have a name. And we believe that the two are related to each other. That's our assumption. But that is something which is found also here. That the structure is on high, is similar to anthropos, but it's also the name. The Torah is the name of the divine. Now, here it's a debate with the way in which people believe that the Torah has only one meaning, the simple meaning that people are reading. So the assumption is the Torah has more than one meaning, and this more than one meaning is the correspondence between a certain text and a certain name and the divine name. To this issue, he dedicates pages. That's as believed, not just a sentence. He is speaking about the nails, what commandments correspond to the nail of this or that finger. To this detail we can find in this book. So the assumption is that is the hidden meaning of the Torah. Someone who doesn't know Kabbalah doesn't know, he's reading a text, like a nice story. But actually, that is not the message. The message is the hidden meaning of the Torah, and that is the hidden meaning. Inner means spiritual, as they put it here, meaning there is an inner meaning, like in Islam, but in other forms of hermeneutics, meaning there is more than one meaning. The external meaning is the simple meaning for simple people. But that's not the real message. So that no creature can comprehend the greatness of its rank, but God blessed be He, the supreme and wonderful one who created it. Meaning, here the assumption is that Torah is so deep, having so many meanings that only God understands it. I shall read one more, and then I shall explain something to you more modern. And the Holy One, blessed be He. His Torah is within Him, and in Him there is the Torah. So, at the beginning we believe there's a distance, like a name from my body. It can be different things. But the assumption is no. The name is found within, and someone is found within the name. So this idea, someone is found within the name, you can just see it, you know. Someone is sleeping, someone pronounces the name, even if someone awakes, you know, because he's in his name. And this is the reason why Kabbalah said he is in his name and the name is in him. I cannot enter into the history of this issue, but I shall in a moment tell you something more modern. He is his Torah, and the Torah is made of the holy impure clay. In the image of the supernal form, and it is the shadow of the Holy One, blessed be. So shadow has to do with the structure. We can ask, it is logical, but here is not extremely logical. It is identity or only the shade of. But the Kabbalists were not so much interested in logic. They were interested to say what is important, the form is there. The shade or the essence are anthropomorphic. That was important. So here the assumption is that he is with the Torah and Torah is with him. Without entering into many details, I would like to tell you the history of this vision up to today. If someone studied seriously Jacques Derrida, Jacques Derrida was not a Kabbalist and he didn't know Kabbalah. Came up with something which is maybe the most important insight he has. Meaning that there is nothing outside the text. That's the most important single statement of Derrida. Everything is a text, everything is found in the text. There's nothing which is not a text. Now, he didn't read this text, for sure. He didn't know Kabbalah, didn't know Hebrew. But a certain Kabbalist was influenced by this text, influenced verbatim, named Menachem Rekanati, was translated by Sholem in one of Sholem's articles. And there it's written. What's written here? This article was translated in French. Article was in German, translated in French, published in a French journal. After the translation of Sholem's article, there is another article translated by the wife of Jacques Derrida. If you look in the French translation of this text and in Derrida, you're going to see exactly the same terminology. Il n'y a pas rien dehors the text. There is nothing outside the text. So here we have a textualization of God. God is in the Torah, Torah is in Him. We are similar to it, we are a text. That became a crucial issue in Derrida's vision, that everything is text. And that's the sentence, il n'y a pas rien dans the text, has a vision which is not Western. It means there is nothing outside the text. It's not a simple statement. This cosmic text for Derrida starts with such a vision. And that, in my opinion, it can be shown almost, how to put it, 99%. Despite Derrida doesn't want to recognize, but hard to believe, you know, if you see that he had in his library this translation of Sholem. His wife translated the text afterwards. It's hard to believe that he didn't read something about the Torah. That is that. So he forgot, but it doesn't matter. That is an example how this textualization of the divinity and of reality, right, had its found in modern hermeneutics. Now, another text which is much more theological is by Joseph Gicatilla, one of the most important Castilian Kabbalists, who, for a while at least, he lived in Medina. I assume that he came to Toledo or something, but that's an issue which should be published more. He wrote a lot, and that's no doubt one of the most influential Kabbalists in Castile and ever. So he wrote a lot. One of the smallest things he wrote is called The Secret of the Cherubim, which were published for the first time rather recently. And here the issue is the issue of unity. In Yosef of Hamadan, this issue is mentioned, but not in the text I brought here. I mean, you must know the correspondence, when you do it, there's going to be a unification, but he doesn't explain, that's evident for him. With Gicatilla, the text which is a little bit more generous, and you can see why it's important to do something like that. The secret of unity is not found until the 10th sphere of Malchut, meaning unity, the divine unity is completed with the last sphere, which is called Malchut or kingship, and that's the family. After Malchut, later is the created world, is the world of separation, meaning while the divinity is unified, despite the fact there are 10 powers, lower than divinity is called the world of separation because everything is becoming independent and not related to the system. And this is the secret of the river that goes out of Eden to water the garden. So he takes biblical verses in order to show you that in fact that's written in the Bible. What is written in the Bible? That's, in the Garden of Eden there are 4 different rivers, which means that the separation after the garden, which is the unified vision, as we're going to see in a moment. So we must understand the story of the paradise, telling not about history, Adam and all this stuff, but actually that is a story about theosophy and theology, meaning the divine powers there on high, unified, later separated, and as we're going to see in a moment, that you must unify them. So that's a normal symbolic reading of the Bible, which Gicatilla was excellent in it. He had the power of, you read it, you are convinced that that is the meaning. He has a very, very fine rhetoric. And from the Eden to the garden, there is the secret of unity. So you see the idea of unity. On high, despite the fact there are many, they are one. Lower than the divine, that is separation. Everything is done by the river that waters the garden, beds of the garden from the emanation from Eden. So I'd like not to enter in detail because we don't have the time. I would like to go now to the unification, which is the theological issue. Again, happy is he who knows. You see, what is the accent? The accent is in the moment someone saying happy is. Not to tell you a secret. To tell, as in the case of Joseph of Hamadan, to tell you, if you know, not the abstract, but the specifics of what to do, then you are happy. So that's why I am telling you that is not theosophy. That you know theosophy, you are happy. No. You are happy when you know the correspondence. So happy is who knows to unify the branches of the garden to the river. Meaning that is the idea of unification. What you do in order to unify. That is, for a Kabbalist, the happiness. So it's not a secret that you are revealed. A secret by itself that's revealed, or mystery, not so important. Because it doesn't tell you what to do. It's a certain form of gnosis. He is interested, in fact, in telling you what to do, and that is the happiness, and we shall see in a moment. Then everything becomes a true and perfect union because of him. And behold, he is repairing all the pipes and draws the supernal waters through the pipes to all the garden and waters the mountain. Meaning, we, by our doing, we draw water from the divine sphere downward. We first unify and then draw the water. So we are responsible for watering the garden on high, but also what's going on here. And about this man it is said, and the righteous is the foundation of the world. The righteous is both the divine power, the ninth divine power, named righteous, but also the person doing it by drawing the water from above. And by him the Sphirot were unified, and the supernal waters were drawn, and running through the pipes. You see the pipes? The pipes are here. The connections between the Sphirot. Through the channels and water, all the garden beds of the garden, all the worlds that were important, also the non-divine worlds are supplied with water, were blessed by him, by the Kabbalist. So, what's going on later is also a repetition of that was done by Adam, and that was done by Abraham, and that is the Kabbalah. Okay, so that's, in my opinion, elaborated in Kabbalistic Castilian texts more than before, and that had a deep impact on the later history of Kabbalah, the theurgical activity by means of the ritual. Now, I hope that you have some questions, because I am not sure that you understood everything. It's self-evident. So that is actually, how to put it, the contribution of Kabbalah as a mode of thinking in Judaism. Not telling you what is the map of the divine, but telling you that this map is significant because it's telling you what to do and how to do. And what is more important, why to do. Okay? So thank you.
I wanted to make a very specific question.
Yes.
These commentaries were written in the late 13th.
What commentary?
The rational, the Tamei Mitzvot,
yes.
the rationals for the commandments. Yes. Late 13th century, early 14th century.
No, it is not 14th, that is 13th.
13th. So it's almost the same time,
yes,
where the Torah Tabait,
yes,
was published also. Yes. I don't know if it was a thread or...
In this period we have a lot, this period, not earlier. Not earlier. That is an issue that was not studied enough. That not only the Kabbalists started to ask the questions, but in the moment someone is giving you an answer, someone else is, how to put it, influenced by. Now, also in Catalonia, you can find interesting commandments, that's for sure. But in Torah Tabait, you're not going to find those explanations. Meaning, commandments were important all the time and were elaborated all the time. The problem is to what extent the theological rationale of the commandment was exposed. So again, would I have time? I could speak much more. Also in Catalonia, we can find in the writings of Maderet, for example, a theory of theology and theosophy. There's no doubt. However, how long it is? 2 lines. 2 lines. Or in Merim Sahula, 3 lines. For them, it's a secret. There is a correspondence, we know the details, but the details are not for you. Here, they are writing hundreds of pages, each Kabbalist, Moses de Leon, and anonymous Kabbalists from this period, are writing hundreds of pages. And which doesn't mean that other people outside won't say that is true. But here you see the rhetoric, and again, I cannot show you the volume, how big it is. So that is, the issue is that Kabbalists were especially interested in commandments, there's no doubt. The problem is who took care to explain all the details and offer you the theological operations in such a precise manner. You understand that? No, that's not only them they were interested in strengthening the ritual, that's for sure, or giving the detail, there's no doubt. But the phenomenon I attempt to describe today is actually, despite the fact that the term secret is found many times in Castilla, 10 of thousands of times. But the secret is immediately explained. Say, that is a secret, and then he explains the secret. Also in the text here, that is the secret. So what is it? Secret is explained. So that's why your question yesterday, no? Is, that's a secret story. No? It's written secret. So what remains secret here? After 1 line, you know the secret. You can say that's esoteric literature. But what remains esoteric? In the same text. Whatever in Catalonia, the secret was respected infinitely more. Infinitely more, not more. In Castile, everyone was using secret and then explaining it. So you know Kabbalah, you see? So simple. What remains only to study the details. That's all.
Let me ask you a question. You have talked about movement of the chain,
Yeah.
and there is some directionality in this chain, because until now I thought that the directionality was up from the
The
man.
chain is going up.
Yeah. Is this?
Yes. What is the chain according to Joseph Muhammad? The chain is the divine structure going down and reaching us. We have the power to move the chain. That's what he's saying openly. Meaning the chain is not going up. The impact is going down. But the chain is coming, the holy chain is coming from God as a chain up to us. We have the partitude of it, so how to move the chain in a significant way. So, or to give you another example, which is not found in Castile, but it is working with the Castilian. The Kabbalists were wise enough to understand that you do hear something, but you don't know how it's going up. You must believe that it's going up. But actually, no one sees anything. very reasonable for someone to say, look, very nice what you say. Theology, theosophy, influence is there, but we don't see anything. Practically no one has seen in the world anything. True? So a little bit later, people came with a simile, which was repeated many, many times, up to fascism. Make an experience. Take two violins. Put one violence here in the corner, another violence there. If you play a chord of the violin there, it's going to have a reverberation there. No one has seen how. True? So who is the violin? We are the violin. And the God is the violin. When we do something here, it has a percussion on high. So they repeated this explanation of how theology is working, despite the fact we don't see. They would say the fact that we don't see doesn't mean anything. Because we can make experiments which are physical and things that we don't see, and nevertheless it works. And that's a long story. I can give you a whole class of how the simile was used up to modern Hasidism. That the fact that we don't see doesn't mean anything. We don't see many things. We don't see viruses, so what? There are no viruses. So they would say the fact that we don't see is not something that is destroying our theory. And with the chain, for sure we don't see any chain, but if those theologians, Platonic, Catholic, doesn't matter, telling us all the time that the chain, so what's the meaning? Means they don't understand what they're saying. A chain is something that can be affected. It must move. Lovejoy's book has never in the whole book, the idea that someone can move a chain, if the chain is reaching us. So take seriously the simile. Okay, there's a chain, but it doesn't move. So say something else, a pillar or something else. So the Kabbalists attempted to exploit the dynamic aspects in order to make sense of their activities. So I don't attempt to convince you that it's true. Not to, don't misunderstand me. I attempt to make sense of what Kabbalists are saying according to their imagination, not to my imagination. To make it clear. They didn't come up with the idea of the chain, the cosmic chain. That was a given. A given in their, how to put it, in the West, in France and here in England. That I recommend very much, the book of Lovejoy. That helped me understand Kabbalah. That he couldn't see something found here, not once or twice, hundreds of times. Because it doesn't fit the Platonic stasis. As if someone would tell him, but look, there are another view, he would say, look, I don't understand, it's meaningless. The Kabbalists attempted to make sense of a type of discourse which was found, but they couldn't subscribe to a static theology. Because, so, if this chain doesn't move, we are meaningless. We receive a meaning only in the moment when you can affect the chain. You can say, indeed there's a chain, it's an important simile. But we can offer an extra meaning to it, which offers also extra meaning to what we're doing. Okay?
Last question. After this generation, what happens?
What?
After this generation,
after
the commentaries, because you mentioned Recanati, but Recanati is in Italy, but there is a continuation here.
First, we have 4 great, huge commentaries on it. The commentaries affected immediately a Kabbalist in Italy, Abraham Abulafia, who wrote also in the same generation a commentary on the commandment, which is based on those issues. And then came another Kabbalist, which we don't know the name, who wrote a whole book named Tikkunei Zohar Raya Meibla, which is also a commentary on the commandments. So that happened, roughly speaking, in 1 generation. After this 1 generation in Castile, and also to a great extent in Catalonia, Kabbalists wrote so much it was a problem to absorb it. So there's a period afterwards, from 1320 to 25, of silence. Meaning, not that those texts were unknown or not accepted, that we know by the number of manuscripts. But it was very difficult to add more up to 15th century. And for sure, later on in Safed, people are writing huge commentaries again and again and again. Because there were some shifts in theology. And those shifts were translated immediately in commentaries on commandments. So that is the Castilian, as I put it, the Castilian period is very important because there was an explosion. Later on, Kabbalists started to consume it and to copy, to read, to reflect on it. Meaning you cannot all the time have new commentaries. Because in 1 generation we have 4 to 5 big commentaries. And then we have Recanati, which had a huge impact. Joseph of Hamadan, without his name, it was anonymous, was copied up to the expulsion from Spain. And immediately after the expulsion, people copied, and then they wrote under his influence other commentaries on commandments. And then came Safed with other commentaries. So this genre is a very important genre, which you won't believe was neglected by scholars of Kabbalah, not by scholars in general. In this book, which is Kabbalah Perspective, which is found also in Spanish, at the beginning, I made a list saying, look, what happens here? You know, we have a genre, which is a big genre. And that was not studied because the Kabbalah scholars were studying what? They were studying the theosophies. I said, the theosophies, that is Kabbalah. In fact, this literature that I brought here, some few samples, is by far more important. Because it explains to people what to do, and how to do, and why to do. And there at the beginning, at the first, I don't know how many pages is the first, I made a list to say, look, we have here a whole genre which is new, which is long, which is very important. It was neglected because scholars had another vision of what Kabbalah is, had a vision of the theology. So if there's the theology, the commandments are less important. I'm not a story I'm telling you because of what the text I brought. That is a much longer problem. That Kabbalah was studied as if it is a theology, because scholars of Kabbalah had an education which was a Western one. In the Western world, to know the theology is enough. So that was applied to Kabbalistic literature. Marginalizing. Main, in my opinion, the main genre of the Kabbalists. And that is true for Castile, and it's true for Safed in Kabbalah, no doubt. So I didn't give you reference to those pages, but that's, in my opinion, a basic issue. That's why I choose to speak about this issue and not tell you what are the 10 spheroids that you can find on the internet. Okay?
Is there any reflection by Abulafia on these issues?
Abulafia and this. As I put it, Abulafia, Abraham Abulafia, is another Kabbalist who started his career in Catalonia. He was here for a short while. He understood that that's not the place for him, for a variety of reasons. So he left and wrote what he wrote in Italy, Byzantine Empire, and Sicily. He never wrote a commentary on 10 spheroids. Why? Because he was Maimonidean. He had the vision of God as an intellect. So it's meaningless to tell you the story to affect. You cannot affect that. It can affect your soul. So you would say, okay, commandment, maybe to affect yourself, which is important for him, but no theology, because that's no theology. So he's another genre, which I don't have the time to speak about. He is not sure that he wrote anything while in Castile. He taught Jicatila, and the first Jicatila, the early Jicatila, is very philosophical. Nothing to do with what he wrote here, that he changed his mind. And this change of mind shows something to what happened in Castile. That he moved in this direction of theosophy theology, despite the fact he started his career studying with Abulafia, which is a Maimonidean. And if sometime the history of Kabbalah in Castile will be written, the question is, why did he change his mind and enter this other vision, which is actually contradicting his early vision? Because there was a spirit of the time. Not that he wrote commentaries, all the others wrote. Moses de Leon wrote the whole book named Sefer Rimon. That's, his commentaries are, on the commandments are found in many of other books. The book of the Zohar wrote. I mean, he was influenced, maybe also influenced, and that's a change characteristic of Castile. In the same period, we cannot find one commentary among the Kabbalists in Catalonia. After Castile, Recanati, under the influence of the Castilian Kabbalah, Recanati offered his simplified vision of Castilian Kabbalah.
It's about something in Kabbalah, Heros. Something in your book, Kabbalah and Heros.
Yes, yes.
What is the connection between Ashmurot and Sefirot?
Between them,
Ashmurot and Sefirot.
okay. The anthropomorphic structure is not only the structure of the divinity, or the structure of the Torah, or our structure. It's also the structure of evil powers. That's your question. Meaning it's like some form of counterpart of the divinity, the evil powers, which are also arranged in the same way. And that is found already early in Castilian Kabbalah, not in Catalan Kabbalah. That everything is arranged at home. And that is the connection. Okay, so you have some food to reflect on it up to the next meeting.
for next meeting, next Tuesday?
For the next meeting, what I have is only in Hebrew, and the whole book, but only in Hebrew, on angels. And unfortunately, I don't have, not only I don't have, there is no study of angelology. That's why I am teaching this on angelology in Kabbalah in general. I don't speak about specific angels or Metatron or this stuff. That's a lot. But that is very, how to put it, isolated study. I mean, a vision of the world of the angels. I wrote a whole book on it, but unfortunately only in Hebrew. If someone's reading Hebrew, I can recommend, maybe I can send it now.
מה הכותרת שלו?
That עולם המלאכים בדמותתם, the world of angels in the image of God, which is exactly what I said 2 minutes ago. That also the angels are arranged in such a way. Excuse me? בדמות אדם. So, my answer as to the Tumorot is also true for angels. They are also arranged anthropomorphically. Or attempt to look to it in such a way. The anthropos, in our structure, is the most important structure in the world. I mean, whatever you're going to look deeply, you're going to see the human anthropomorphism. Everything is arranged in such a way, not only the divinity. That's why we are responsible. We are, how to put it, the clue of the universe. Not God is the clue of the universe. God did his part and now he's waiting for us. And by our structure, we can affect. That is the term responsibility they use. So, unfortunately, I don't have. I'm writing also in Hebrew from time to time. I mean, that's the whole book, dealing only with this issue, the structure of the angels in the shape of man. And then I shall try to discuss again with later.
The way in this part of the program,
Yes.
we use another image with the names of angels. I mean, I would send you because you cannot see here, but this is an amulet, 15th century Spanish amulet.
Yes.
With the names of angels.
I
will send you the
will
image.
show me. I like also magic from time to time. I also wrote on magic.
Speaking of angels.
Angels are related to magic, for sure. It's not only good angels, there are also a variety of angels. The problem is that, I'm writing different languages and not always what I have is found in English or French. Okay.